Welcome to the Deliberate Leaders podcast. I am your host, Allison Dunn. Our guest today is Tracy Clark. She is an award-winning leadership and high performance coach, and our topic is Let's Play, the two words that forever change how you lead and scale. Tracy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
So lovely to be with you, Alison. And so thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. I love to kick these off with a deliberate conversation. So what would be your number one leadership tip for our listeners today?
Okay, my number one leadership tip is around being intentional about leading yourself first. So most people think of leadership about leading others, but actually it starts with becoming an intentional leader of yourself. And what I suggest to people is that the first step they can take is to really build their self-awareness. And one tool that I absolutely love, Alison, is the Enneagram. I think it's the most powerful tool you can come across. And so I'd recommend to people to take it and to have a debrief with an accredited leader, expert in the Enneagram, like myself, and really go in to chart a roadmap to become an intentional leader. What I found is when you start with this step, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Such a great tip. We don't talk about the Enneagram, I think, in the universe enough. My go-to tool is the DISC assessment, but I think the Enneagram is also super powerful. Is that something that you're certified in, just out of curiosity?
It's something I'm certified in, and I find that it's really powerful in that it takes you away from this is what I do, goes under to this is why I do what I do. And I just find it brings you one insight after the other. And what I love more than anything is it gives you a growth route. And I think that's what leadership is about. It's about going, we're not static, we're always growing. So let's lean into it and let's find that next level.
Yeah. I love your shift on when people think about leadership, they think about leading others, and it starts with us entirely. So great tip. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
All right, so let's talk about let's play. I think that in a lot of ways that sounds like a shift in mindset. So how do you define play in the context of leadership? And I have a multi-part question, but that's my first question.
Perfect. Well, Alison, what I find is that most people think about play as some frivolous activity, something that's childlike. And sometimes when I say the word play to someone who I don't know very well, they'll go, oh, isn't that a bit unprofessional? Won't that damage people's gravitas? But actually, it's exactly the opposite, because what I see is playfulness isn't an activity. It's this powerful state of mind that you then infuse into all the activities that you carry out. And I say that this let's play mindset has three powerful threads: intense curiosity, radical open-mindedness, and proactive experimentation. So that is what I see playfulness and let's play. That's what it's about.
I love those kind of three pillars for it. What are some of the practical ways that leaders can integrate this playfulness into their decision-making and their leadership?
Yeah, so for me, it's very much about standing back and seeing these three pillars and really looking at whatever you're doing. And let's take a decision that you're about to make. Really stand back. I believe we make a lot of assumptions. So when I'm working with leaders, I see there are implicit assumptions in everything they're making. So what I would invite a leader to do is be really curious and open-minded before they make that decision, and really stand back and go, what assumptions am I taking as being true when I'm making this decision? And what if those assumptions aren't right? So Ali, I work with one client in particular who loves challenging assumptions. And it's something that we've done in all the work we've done together. and he's a serial entrepreneur. And he recently opened, yes, another amazing business. And he was told that to enter and penetrate the industry that he was going into, that it would take 7 years.
Mm.
Again, he came back and thought, open-minded, let's challenge these assumptions. Well, what if it didn't take 7 years? And what he's done is he and his team have now entered the market in 6 months. So that is the power of really taking the playfulness and looking at it from the perspective of assumptions. So that's what I'd say. Look at those assumptions, first detect them and then challenge them. And what if they could be different? And what if they could be far more favorable to you?
I love the idea about challenging assumptions. I think we think a lot of things that are false. And to go at it curiosity, like, well, if it could be done, like let's say it takes 7 years, how do you figure out how to do it faster, right? Because everything can always be improved in some way.
Exactly.
I, yeah. I'm thinking about playfulness. Now, I consider myself to be a very playful person, but I also have some very serious clients that I work with. And I'm just curious, like, I feel like playfulness is not a natural place for them to operate from. And I'd almost guess that they'd feel like it would compromise their integrity to some degree. So help me help them think about that differently.
Absolutely. Well, first, let me tell you about how I discovered this, because I would have thought exactly the same as you, even just a few years ago. So I would imagine the same as you. I have a lot of clients that are visionary founders, and they work in very, very stressful environments. They come onto, I do a lot on Zoom, they come onto the screen and I can see the stress in their shoulders and in their face. And what I found is the more I was coaching people, I found I was using two words. They were just slipping out of my mind and then out of my mouth. And I kept noticing, wow, I'm using those two words, let's play, a lot. And what I noticed when I said them was their shoulders would drop, their eyes would sparkle, and their minds would just open up. And the energy would shift for them and for me. And as I said, they started to think in entirely new ways. And it was almost like Let's Play provides this safe space for them to really challenge and explore some of those tough, challenging problems. So what I would say to you is, I get people to experience it first, to really feel the power of it. And not once have I had anyone push back when it's been organic, because it's very invitational. Hey, let's play a minute. And you see a pause and then you see this smile. And then you follow it with a question. So I would say to people, experience it. And then don't try it on your team before you've applied it to yourself. What you need to do is to really look at yourself and go, how can I be more curious? How can I challenge my thinking before I go onto those calls or into those meetings? So I think that is important. And the other sort of stretch for a leader is to start to realize that actually what they need to do is shift from a pattern, which I see a lot of leaders having, of talking and telling, to standing back, holding space, really listening, and then asking questions. So they need to embody this curiosity and this open-mindedness themselves. Now, Allison, I don't know about you, but when I've been on the end of someone asking me really powerful questions and giving me space to think, it's been very generative and I've come up with amazing ideas. And the impression I've had of that person is exactly that they've had gravitas and I've lent in. So that is how I would show people and ask them, have they experienced that? And see what their experience is.
I don't use the terminology "let's play," but one of the things that I do in coaching is I basically hand the proverbial magic wand to someone and
Yes.
say, "This is your magic wand. What could you do with this, or how would you change that, or what could
Yeah.
be better?" And like to kind of playfully think through a situation. If anything is possible, like what could it be? So. But let's play also immediately makes me smile.
Exactly. And that's what I found. And I
Mhm.
found it just happened so organically and so intuitively. And then I was sitting here one day and I was like, gosh, you use those words a lot. And every time I use them, they're having an impact. So, yeah, that's what
Wonderful.
I.
So one of the things you just said is to make sure that someone is trying it on themselves before they expect to implement this back at the team. So how do you see, like, so once someone has done that, how do they implement playfulness and influencing team dynamics once they're back at the team?
So it's really around what I'd say it's around setting the context, really providing a scene setter of why are we here? What are we here to achieve? And getting buy-in. Do we agree that this is what we're doing? And then I would use the word, hey, what if we experiment? What if we're just intensely curious and we brainstorm? And I think it can be really good. I'm a big believer in setting up agreements with teams. And some of those agreements that I found that really work in this sort of scenario is to say, listen, let's throw out ideas. Let's have a space where no idea is a bad idea. Let's have a space where we're non-judgmental. Let's have a space where we let everyone have a room to express themselves. And I get people to say, shall we agree to these? What if we did? What else would you like to add? So I think setting up this container is absolutely crucial. And then from there, asking questions so that you get people to step up and you give them the voice. That is absolutely crucial.
Fantastic. In, I'd say on a day-to-day basis, I know that leaders that I'm working with, they face a lot of pressures to be serious and focused all of the time.
Yes.
So how can embracing playfulness counteract the burnout and help them avoid the pitfalls of the overwork and the high stakes game that we play?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's very much around finding activities, I think, here that help you as a person relax. So personally, I love walking in nature. I love actually just deep breathing and meditation. But something I also love to do is put music on and sing. So do things that enable you to shift your state of energy, because I think that is crucial. That is one area that's sort of more frivolous. And then the other thing I think is really showing leaders that the word resilience is a word that I believe is often often defined in a very restrictive way. And this definition of resilience can be a trap. So it's very much resilience is toughing it out, weathering the storm. And sometimes these leaders that you're talking about, they have this mindset. I've got to go all at it. I've got to be resilient. I've got to just do what it takes. And it's showing them that this mindset or this state actually shuts down their thinking. It stops them thinking creatively. It holds them back from making the right intuitive decisions, and it can make them very, very rigid. So I think by explaining that what they think of as that that's good, that that's actually can be very counterproductive. And that what we're doing is we want them to move from this rigid resilience to agility. And this agility is where we start to loosen up, where we start to ask these questions. So that's what I would do. I would get them to see that that shift will help their thinking to open up. I suggested a few activities there, but I would also ask them, what makes you feel relaxed? What do you love doing? And, some people say to me, oh, when I'm really stressed, okay, you might not be able to do this in the office, but you could do this before you go, is get into the shower and just relax. And so do something that really sets you up in more of a relaxed state that's opening your mind to creative thinking.
Love that. I'm currently going through a program, and it's really starts with the habits that we create to
Mhm.
set us up for that success. So, what would be one takeaway that you would challenge at least our leadership listeners to be thinking about how they could get into that state more consistently and really approach things in a more playful way?
I think it varies from person to person. For me, down to the simplicity that you can do at any point is connecting to your breath.
Hmm.
Deep breaths with a longer exhale than inhale. When you really have a long exhale, you just feel your shoulders relax. That is one thing. The other thing that I find very, very game changing is gratitude. I think it's very underestimated, but I think when you sit down, take some deep breaths, and think about what you're really grateful for that you've got here and now. I don't know about you, but a smile automatically comes to me, and I start to feel relaxed. So that is a way of slowing down and becoming very present. And I think that that presence is what's really, really powerful.
Well, both of those deeply resonate with me. So thank you for those tips. Tracy, we're at the end of our time together, but I just want to sincerely thank you. I know that you have a book coming out. Is it called Let's Play?
It is. So I'm
Okay.
actually halfway through writing it, and
Okay.
it's going to be called the same title, Let's Play, the two words that will forever change the way you lead and drive growth. So in that, I'm talking about Let's Play, then I'm splitting it down into leadership of self, which
Okay.
goes back to my top tip, how you can apply this to yourself. Because as I said, that's what's really crucial. Apply it to yourself, show up as that best leader of yourself, and then move on to really rolling it out with your team. So
Brilliant. Well, when do you anticipate it to be on the shelves and available?
I'm hoping end of the year.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. It truly has been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Alison.
Thank you.